just waiting for the live stream to kick in here so that the audio doesn't start with me halfway through it.
Did you see Laura's message?
No, I didn't. Not multitasking here. So
okay, looks like she's saying that your system's not sending
people to Zoom. There's no one. So that's why it's really. So Laura, you're gonna have to tell me more about that.
How I got here is that Zoom is sending me over to the World Wide Web. So what I did, because I know how to like try different things, what I did is in the URL, I took the number at the very end, that digit. I don't know how many digits there are, but it's a number.
Yeah,
I
7.
took that and plugged it into join a meeting and Zoom.
So the link is not working.
No, what a person has to do is they have to go to Zoom.
Yeah.
And they actually have to go to where it says join a meeting. I'll send you the link.
Okay.
So that you can see how this is operating.
I
And
did
then
the
what a
same
person
thing.
has to do is in your URL that is an automatic message.
Yeah.
I'll grab that. It'll say to join the meeting, follow this link. Those digits at the end, a person has to take those digits. Whoops, just a sec, I'm going to show you. And they have to actually plug that into the join a Zoom meeting.
Because this is, so what I just put in the chat, that's not taking you to the link?
No, plug it in. You'll see where it goes. It'll go out to the
John, can you
World
try
Wide
that?
Web.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Well, I because whenever I click it, I always get to it. So I think, as I think you and I have talked about in the past, you know, if it's on my domain, then that's why I'm not seeing it, right?
Yeah. It seems to work for me, but it would be good to double check your mailing system or whatever it is. Maybe it's producing a link that is not working for some reason. So,
okay. Well, I'll definitely have to look at that in my chat box and whatnot.
It's just that I'm seeing that the number of people that are showing up is not indicative of numbers.
That's right, because what I'm having is I'm having people go through my whole chat bot thing, and some people are not pleased about that. They don't like it, which I fully expected, but they're going through that and they're still not showing up. So if it's something on my end, of course I want to know.
Right. And so I'm always a person that will communicate back what's happened to me. So when I cut and paste, because when the email comes to me, it doesn't come up as a linked URL. I actually have to cut and paste that into a browser.
Okay.
And then, so Michael or whoever John is, if you take that and cut it and paste it into a browser, right? And then enter, you'll see that it's not happening. So in my email, I'm not getting it as a link. There's no
it's no hyperlink. Yeah, yes. The hyperlink hasn't been embedded. Okay.
Exactly.
I'll look into that. Thank you, Laura. I can always count on you to, be straight and let me know when things are not working as well as they should. Okay, let's get this road on the show here. And I'm just going to, now that we are recording on YouTube Live, welcome one and all. This is Widen Your Gaze Fridays. My name is Luc Bouchard, your host for Widen Your Gaze Friday. I want to thank everyone that's on the call and who was able to make it here. And I'm very excited about our guest speaker today, John, who John and I have known for 5-6 years, I think. Maybe not that long, but it's pushing on
five for sure. Yeah, 2016, 4
years on that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
and John has I've used John. I've gone to John on many occasions for my marketing, for my branding, and he is outstanding at what he does. His knowledge base is really good, and he'll be the first to admit that he doesn't know something and that he will actually do that. So without further ado, let's get into Podcast 101.
Well, thank you, Luke. Thanks for that beautiful introduction. Yeah, my name is John. I'm connecting today from the south of Spain. I'm like an hour away from Sevilla, and just I'm gonna give you a very brief introduction of me, just so you know who's talking to you and why should you listen to me. Over the last 10, 12 years, I've been mainly working on digital marketing. I started working on social media marketing before there was such a thing as social media marketing. I was in a project in 2009 that actually got me to Washington, to America, and part of the project included communication through mediums such as blogs and Facebook, and I think Twitter didn't even exist then or was in its infancy, and there were no such things as marketing degrees on social media, digital marketing, or things like that. So I kind of learned on the job, and I've been very privileged to work in some of the most prestigious agencies and for some of the biggest brands in the world, such as Nestle, Johnson & Johnson, Mazda, you name it, some of the biggest. And simultaneously, I have been blogging and YouTubing for around 10 years. I made a personal decision to close that enterprise a couple of years ago, my personal blog and my YouTube channel. But I tell you this only to inform you that I've tackled the entire digital marketing world from let's say the upper echelons of big brands and big budgets, but also from the guerrilla, personal, solopreneur, and medium to small business as well. So I bring both vantage points into this conversation. And for a while now, I have been acting as a podcast producer. I have been an amateur musician and a kind of a home sound engineer since I was 15. And recently, a lot of my entrepreneurial friends and people that I know that have a message to share, or they have an online project, or they have a business, they've been going into podcasting, and I wasn't satisfied with the quality of the sound they were delivering, and I started getting involved in their production, and one thing led to another, and now I'm producing a good few podcasts, and I've created like a boutique podcast production company. I would define myself as a digital Gandalf for podcasters. So my intention with this call is to offer as much value as I can to give you an overview of all the aspects involved in podcast production. And this is I found this very useful to people that are either starting a podcast or already have one, or also thinking about having one, because most people, when they are considering starting a podcast, they don't necessarily have an overview of how to think about the project, where does it fit within their marketing strategy or within their lives. If it's a personal podcast, that can also be the case. So I found myself consulting with people, just giving them talks about what they need to do to start it, and that kind of became this presentation. The presentation is going to be very brief. I will talk for like 10 minutes more or less. I would love to hear Michael and Laura and hear the questions and hear about the projects or where they're at, and then I will possibly be able to offer more value through consulting one-on-one right here on the spot. But for the benefit of the people that will see the recording later on, or that maybe watching on YouTube, I think it's a good thing that I spend around 10 minutes more or less giving you an overview. And I before I start, I'm going to say that I think, and I'm not exaggerating when I say that, I think that we're living a historic moment. I think that the internet is giving the spoken word what the printing press gave the written word around 500 years ago. So never before in the history of mankind we have been able to share our message with this amount of people, to talk about something, to network, to find new ways put our voice out there. We have always been limited to radio or TV, things like that, and now that has changed, and that's a blessing and a curse. And I'm going to try and focus on the blessing, but I'm also going to offer you some of the nitty-gritty on what does it take to get your voice out there. So far so good. Anybody has any questions, or would you like to know something about me or about the presentation before I start?
Thanks for turning your camera on, Laura. And Michael, I really encourage you to also turn yours on, just so we can see. The one thing that I just want to mention also is I've just approached John for a project that I've been approached for a project, and I've put on, and it's a project that has 365 recordings. And so that's something that we're going to be, looking at, and potentially going forward, I have to bring it back to the client to say, this is, what it's the scope of it and whatnot. But that's the level of trust I have with John, of being able to bring stuff to him and know that he's going to help me out. So I think it would be good value in just hearing from both Laura and Michael about what your interest is in podcasts, and we can go from there.
So kudos to you, Luke, for obtaining that project. I'm hoping that it was a result of all the meetups and the exposure and all these widen your gazes and something like that, because it just doesn't fall into your lap. It has to come through exposure. So John, my question is this, is that I'm one of these people that I'm not going to jump into the ocean, and there's many oceans right now. We've got oceans of video, we've got oceans of podcasts. I am able to percolate what I need to the top, but the problem is that Luke has probably spent thousands and thousands of hours drumming up exposure to what he does and what he has to offer. But there's got to be a less labor time intensive way of doing this. And so how do we percolate a podcast, and how do we narrow down through those billions of people out there so that we're getting our target folks? Now, I have a lot of experience in personas and creating who the client might be, but even that is not the solution.
Yeah, totally. Yes. Okay. So I'm gonna make a note of that question, and I will tackle it as I finish the introduction, because that will exactly follow under the marketing and strategy side of things to consider when one prepares the podcast. I completely agree with you. There's many oceans out there. I mentioned that podcasting is a blessing and a curse. The blessing is that you can reach those billion people. The curse is that you have to find them. There's plenty of competition. The more opportunities everybody has, the more fierce the competition is, and the more cunning the strategies get. So that's kind of part of the reality of the territory, so to speak. So Laura, are you okay? Just give me a sign if it's okay with you, if I first give the overview, and then maybe I can zoom into that specific question, and by the time I finish the presentation, I may have forgotten, and I may ask you to refresh my memory. So basically, what I do with a potential client or a client when they approach me to produce a podcast, or maybe just become involved in the production of the podcast, I try to take them from zero to hero. So what I'm going to describe is kind of the pathway of the creation of a podcast, and that pathway also describes the different areas. I get a lot of pleasure and joy in working on stage one. Stage one of preparing a podcast is the concept. And I never thought that I would have to bring it back to basics, but what I have found is that because it's not a very new medium, but the hype is happening right now. Many people approach a podcasting project really without having clarity on why do they want a podcast, and what for, and what are the goals, what is going to be the title, what's going to be the niche if they have one, what are their own motivations, be it personal or business wise. And in my experience, it pays off tremendously to actually go to the drawing board and spend some time there and exploring, why do we want a podcast, what for, what where does it fit within your project. If you have a larger project, let's say you have an online shop, or as Luke has, he develops services for other people. So getting a lot of clarity on that, knowing how much time and money one is going to spend on the podcast, what are the goals, is it worth even starting, and if we start, how are we going to go about it. The conceptualization of the project is super important. That would be stage one or even stage zero. There's a lot of consulting and coaching going on, and it's kind of setting the foundation of the house. Once that is done, and we could spend 3 hours just on that, but I'm not going to. I'm gonna just give you the overview. Once that is done, the second stage of podcast production or starting a podcast project is kind of the setup. Now that we know what we're gonna do and why, we need to create a platform, both digital and also physical. We need to be thinking about what microphone we're going to use, what is our recording environment, what hosting platform we're going to use. We're going to create the cover, we're going to record the intros, the outros, the call to actions. We're going to think about the content plan. I want to also say that not every podcast that I work on needs to go very deep on any of these things. Some podcast projects are very simple. They are like a seed that is going to grow. So just if I give you lots of different aspects, I do not mean to imply that we need to go very, very deep in each of these stages. Some projects can be set up in a couple of days and we're good to go, but other projects require more thinking through. So I'm just going to give you the big picture, knowing that we can narrow it down to very simple concepts. But there has to be a setup phase. We need to know where our files are going to be hosted, how we're going to record, which microphone we're going to use and how to use it, what is our cover, that type of thing. And we need to set up the entire digital ecosystem and a recording environment. It can be at home, like I have right now. It's like a static setup, or it can be a mobile setup that we could use if we're on the go. So once we have the concept that we have the setup, it's the time to actually create the content. This is recording, this is editing, and some aspects that not many people think of is creating good show notes, doing a bit of SEO, search engine optimization for the titles and descriptions and the themes, so our podcast can be found organically, and also tagging the files, which is something that many people don't know about, that each audio file contains text information, and depending on how you use that, you get more chances to be positioned organically. So those are some of the things that when it comes to creating the content, some of my clients, when they started, they thought that they record a file and that's done. It's like, sometimes it is, depending on what you use, but more often than not, you have to record, you have to process the sound, you have to edit, you have to create good show notes so people can read about the podcast before they decide if they want to listen to the episode. And we need to be very strategic with our keywords and our terms and how we describe our episode if our intention is to be found. I'm going to take 1 minute here just to say that I'm a sound geek, and one of the flags that I wave in my brand is to provide very good sound quality. I do believe that sound has power. We all know what it is to have an intimate conversation in a nice living room and to listen to your friend very clearly, and we all know what it is to have a conversation in a bar with the music blasting out and not being able to listen properly. And we all have had conversations from the toilet in which everything is echoey and we cannot really listen, or we have been commuting or in the gym. So I believe that sound talks directly to the human heart, talks directly to the soul. So I work with my clients in achieving the best sound possible. I want my clients to be able to, I want my clients to know that their podcast can be listened to while they commute, in their car, in the gym, and that background noise is not going to be a problem, that the sound is going to come clear, and that the message and the content is going to come directly, very clearly to the person's heart. We all know how tired we can get when the sound is not right. We go like, what is that person saying? So this is one aspect that in the age of WhatsApp messages and quick communication sometimes gets overlooked. So I just wanted to say that because I'm a sound geek, as you can tell by my very nice microphone. So once we have created our content, we need to be thinking about distribution. Just pressing publish is good, fantastic. But if we want to reach an audience, and I bet that most people that take their podcasting seriously want to reach an audience, we need to think about distribution. We need to upload. We need to create a blog post about the post. We need to think about our social media channels. We need to check the health of our hosting platform and the RSS feed, which is a technicality that I'm not going to go into too much. We need to maybe think about PR. Some people start podcasts and they are public figures, so they know journalists in newspapers. So again, we can go as simple as press publish, or as elaborate and deliberate as some other podcasts that really have like a PR machinery behind them. So I just want to touch base on that. I'm not saying that all of this is necessary for every podcast, but it's good to give it a thought. And related to this is the marketing strategy. What are we aiming for? Are we aiming to increase our brand visibility? Are we in for describing our products and services? Do we have a podcast that is designed to create a call to action to subscribe to a paid platform? Is it just to grow our audience? So we need to be strategic regarding what is the goal and how we're going to measure it. Because no two podcasts are created the same. And one of my core questions when I work on the concept, and somebody comes to me saying, I want my podcast to work well. It's like, okay, what does that mean? What is working well? Is that, do you want to reach 10 people that will become your loyal fans and will buy premium coaching processes from you? Or do you want to talk about sports to 1 million people so you can sell sponsorship placements? We need to know what is the goal, so we can create a marketing and distribution strategy. We can measure effectively. And in my experience with social media and digital marketing, there's an unprecedented obsession with subscribers, downloads, likes, and all of that is all well and good. But if you don't know why you want the likes, what you want them for, and what you want your subscribers to do, it's kind of it's like being in the dark. Is super important to really know how we're going to measure success, so we can have a marketing strategy that actually works towards that goal. Yeah, Luke, you wanted to intervene?
Yeah, I just want to say that I think that what is really what I wrote down here is that it sounds like you really help people decide and get clarity on what success means to them.
Yeah, definitely.
And do you find that people don't have that really very fleshed out? They really have that.
No, most people really. I mean, most people that have been worked with, we have spent a lot of time just gaining that clarity. They approach podcasting like they approach Facebook or Twitter. Let's just post, and they want to make money with the podcast, and they want the podcast to serve the business, but they don't know how is the podcast going to serve the business and how we're going to measure it. And once we get clarity on that, things get easier. And it's less overwhelming. Many people think that they need to get 100,000 followers, and I have some clients that, hey guys, if you get 100 followers and you can sell coaching services to 1% of them, but your coaching services are premium, you may be in business. So you can maybe ease out in the audience growth side of things, but really kill it in the content delivery to the appropriate people. And if the appropriate people are 1,000 and they are going to buy anything that you do, 1,000 is fantastic. So it's about getting that, and as well as I do, that gaining clarity sometimes takes time. You have to plow through people's assumptions and all of that, so, and nothing that you don't know. And then I'm gonna touch on two more points and I'm done. I'll stop ranting on you. So the other next 2 points are kind of optional depending on the nature of your project. One of them is the reporting and evaluation. depending on the depth and seriousness of your project, you may want to do regular reporting based on the marketing strategy, evaluate how is the project working, and modify your strategy to make it serve your goals. So we need to understand what is working, what is not working, how do we know that it's working, and what changes we're gonna implement. Again, I want to stress that some podcasts are completely legitimate projects, and but they are not at a point in which they want to take their marketing and reporting so seriously. They are just communicating and talking and communicating and creating conversation. So they may not put so much focus on these areas, but it's worth mentioning. And lastly, monetization. How do we make money with the podcast? And then again, not every podcast is born to make money, but most of them are, if not directly, indirectly, maybe through redirecting to other products and services, maybe through sponsorship, maybe through affiliate marketing, maybe through premium content that only subscribers can access to. So there's a number of strategies that one can think of. And then again, there's not one size fits all. And that's why go back full circle is super important. And that's what I get the most joy from, is just talking with my client on what are the goals, what is the purpose, how are we going to make money with this, is the goal to make money, and then once we have all that pathway, then things tend to flow way more smoothly. And so that's basically me giving you the bird's eye view to the pathway from conceptualization of the project to completion and to running it. It's kind of the map, is a bit of the territory, and I like to start with that prior to basically opening the conversation up to you, so you can let me know how can I best serve today. And so maybe we can start, if Laura would be so kind as to refresh our memories with her question. We can start there, or maybe Luke, you want to make some comments, or if Michael wants to pose a question.
Well, I'd like to hear what Michael's interested in this is also. So if you want to weigh in there, Michael.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I would like to apologize for the lack of video. I live in a canyon and my provider is doing work on the lines. So I'm getting audio, but I can't seem to access video. I'm not sure why.
My God, Michael, if I've had a quarter for every time I heard that, and I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Anyway, that being said.
Thank you very much for letting us know that.
You're welcome. Yeah, I don't mean to be rude, but, and the other thing is, I'm at a transition in my life where I am trying to reinvent myself within my industry. And so I'm looking for ways to do that, to have more of a social media presence. Mm-hmm. And podcast has come up. There's been a lot of webinars, a lot of video broadcasts and everything where people have been able to stay in touch and actually do business. So I'm trying to open up the avenues there. Mm-hmm. By doing a professional setup, whether it's the microphone, the background, the lighting, as well as you said, the most important thing is having a clear what and why. What is my message and why? I mean, what is it that I'm selling? Am I selling my service, my ability, is it a platform for people to talk, a chat room? What is it? So that's something I have to come to terms with. Yeah. And also what my goals are. I mean, obviously, I think most people would love to be able to monetize a podcast. Yeah. Is it feasible within my industry? And you've mentioned, I have some notes. I've got the search engine audio file, using that text for visibility, distribution. Mm-hmm. What is my goal? Reporting, evaluation, monetizing, all those things. I want to learn how, whether it, like you said, whether it's through sponsors or links to other sites, or where I'm getting some kind of a referral fee or something. What is it that I can do? Mm-hmm. To generate additional income, to supplement my income. Yeah. And so that's what I'm hoping to learn, and how it applies to my particular field, because I think it's a whole new thing. I work for the film industry.
Oh, nice. Oh. Brilliant.
So I'm what's known as a location scout manager. I find locations for filming.
Okay.
So we used to do quite a bit of traveling, like around the world. and now not so much. The budgets, especially now with the coronavirus thing, my industry has actually been locked down for the last few months. They're not allowing any. It looks like I lost the YouTube feed. They're not allowing any filming. They're not even granting permits or anything. So right now we're in lockdown. So I'm trying to think, well, how can I make this work? Through sharing information and being an asset for people. So
there are aspects of what you're saying that kind of overlap with Laura's original question. So I think I'll try and tackle this conversation through you, and then I think we can very swiftly move into Laura's original question. So do you mind if I ask you a few questions about your industry? Because yeah, cool. So Michael, who would be your client normally when you scout?
Well,
Who is the producer or?
Well, it's an interesting story. Basically, we're the director's eyes. He doesn't have a chance to go out. We're helping him create his vision. He doesn't have the time or the opportunity to go out and look for locations.
Sure.
What we do is we have a concept. He gives us a concept. So I'm hired by the director or the producer or the production company to help the director visualize and realize that at a location, how he can achieve what it is, whether it's a commercial or a feature, telling the story or selling a product, whatever. I help them create that vision by the locations I select. And then he narrows it down from my selections. I give him options based on the budget. So I'm hired by the director, the producer, or the production design, or the production company. Yep. Now, I want to be visible to them, because you can't go around, you can't do mass mailings to a production company unless they're on a job right near at that particular time where the director is looking for a new scout or new location manager. They throw your information away. They don't save it. There's no purpose for them to do that. Yeah. So it makes it difficult. How do I tap in? And a lot of the directors nowadays are coming out of film school. They're young. They're really adept at social media. How do I create an Instagram presence? How do I create all this stuff where they might be inclined to run across me or learn about me? In the old days, it was word of mouth.
Yeah. Nowadays, would you work for let's say mainstream names, or would you also work for, let's say, the indie directors, people that have a medium-sized budget and they're
both. But in all honesty, I'm a union member and stuff, so I can still work for non-union jobs, the smaller independent stuff. It's only a matter of, depends on the project and how long it's going to keep me out of the mainstream, because the mainstream is how I survive with the large jobs. So I wouldn't want to take an indie job for a third of the pay and then be out of the work circuit for 2 months.
Yeah, for sure.
But so that's one element. I'm open to work in general.
This would definitely fit within the marketing strategy, because the first thing that comes to my mind is I have a hard time imagining our good friend Christopher Nolan listening to podcasts about scouting.
Right.
So or anyone of that caliber. I may be completely wrong. I don't know Chris. He may be listening to podcasts about that. But what I'm thinking about is how to position you as the expert you are, and make the people that need your services cross paths with you.
Right.
And I'm wondering if podcasting is your best. If it's your best shot. I do not know. And I'm not saying it is or it is not. I think that it would be worth exploring deeply. Also because I am vaguely familiar with the film industry. I have a couple of friends who work in the film industry, but I do not know the ins and outs of how people get the jobs. And for what I understand is there's a lot of personal recommendation and a lot of reputable background portfolio. Correct me if I'm off the mark in here. So one thing that popped into my mind was to increase your reputation through storytelling and education. And I'm not suggesting, I'm just brainstorming, but how about if you could condense your expertise for new directors, or for directors that right now are in a situation, like you very much said, in a lockdown, in a it's difficult to make movies right now. And what if you could provide pathways to easing that side of the production? What if you could appeal to people that are doing the second or third or fourth movie and need to find locations, and they don't know how to go about working with a good location scout? Is there a problem to solve in that arena? Because I think that would be a good tactical questions. What are the problems that directors and producers face when scouting for locations? How to go about it? How to select a good location? How to select a good scout for locations? What are some of your painful stories? What are some of the successful stories? And I think that could open up let's say a constellation of ideas and valuable content that the right type of people could listen to. Now, having said that, is podcasting the best format? I don't know yet, but I would start there, because you basically are a problem solver for producers and directors.
Right.
The question is if they're going to be listening to podcasts to solve that, or if they're just going to make a phone call to a good scout and go like, look, I need something that looks like Mars and something that looks like the Antarctica. So I don't have time to listen to 4 episodes of your podcast or something. So
agreed, and it's so true. That's why it's kind of wasteful if actors send out, they go through the expense of a reel, they send it, unless they're going for a lead, the director has no time to view that. They'll throw it away. They'll discard it. And the same thing in this case, it applies. It's time restraints. So agreed. I couldn't see a director watching a podcast that I do unless someone he respects, the DP or the production designer, says, hey, you got to listen to this guy, or I've worked with him before, he's amazing, you've got to go to his website, check out his stuff, so it's been more of a referral thing. So that's why I'm saying I'm just trying to learn how to utilize social media in general, and this is just one option. And like you said, it remains to be seen. Is this a good fit? Is this something? But I agree, if I could do some kind of a presentation for up and coming or newbie directors that are having trouble with a resource or something of just general information, where, hey, that, and then have it finish with, hey, my website, check me out, send me a message, hey, we're looking, whatever, just something to lead them to me.
Yeah, and my thoughts were, because it's really about how do you offer value, how do you make their lives better and easier through your services, and
without giving away the
everything. Yeah, and there's that too, and I don't know how much of that is actual problem, but it's, I think a service that you could offer could be along the lines of, what do you need to know? This is what you need to know about wrapping your brain around a location, and offering it that way to new and upcoming, because I think that what's really important here is, how far in the knowledge train are you, your point of entry on them. And so that's my 2 bits.
Agreed. No, I agree with you. And that's a good point. And that way I can give them, without being too specific and giving away, because the problem we have in our industry is that people will try to call you and pick your brain, but not pay you. Hey, we're looking, do you have any suggestions? We're going, hey, we're looking for this. Where should we look? And then they don't hire you, and you've spent time, energy, and effort trying
I think you're the only industry that has that problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, there's also another angle that you could use. Again, I'm brainstorming, not suggesting, but it's worth starting the conversation. And it would be from the networking point of view. What if you were gonna be let's widen our gaze. What if you would interview key people in the industry from the vantage point of the scout? What if you were going to interview producers and directors and talk about the stories of finding locations? What are the main problems they have found? How would you recommend young directors to go about it? Can they connect with somebody else? And then you start becoming like let's say scouting journalist of the industry,
Right.
and maybe you do not. You may not derive monetary value directly from the podcast, but what you may derive from it is getting tons of ideas and tons of contacts, and also being in touch with the pulse of the industry, with real problems that directors and producers face, and then plenty of small talk around those circles. And also these people can talk about, well, I just had an interview for a podcast with this guy and he seems to know what he's talking about, and I know you're now looking for to film a movie that takes place in the 1920s, and this guy can find you a location that looks like that. Or so maybe it's not attacking the problem directly, but entering the industry from left field and creating, let's say, like a conversation around movie making. And I personally would not listen to a podcast about as a producer. I may not listen to a podcast that is entirely devoted to finding a location, but I would possibly listen to a podcast that talks about the industry, the stories, the struggles, how to solve it, the lessons learned, the curiosities, all of that. That may have, if I'm a movie maker and I can learn from great producers, and there's this Michael guy who's interviewing phenomenal people in the industry and directors, and I'm gonna learn and I'm gonna get inspired.
Right.
Well, maybe then your name sticks, and you're a scout, you're a location scout, but you're also an information gatherer, and you look for interesting conversations, and you can kind of map out what problems these people are having, and you can become a connector, and people may call you for that. So it's an indirect way, and of course you would like to. You will have to like the project itself. You would like to.
Right.
You would need to actually be just about the possibility of doing 50 interviews with 50 producers and directors and.
No,
You-
I agree, because I have a multitude of stories of how the big boys play and how they've actually, locations have driven the story because of the difficulty in getting there. It altered the script in a way that made it unusual or unique. You know what I mean? I mean, it goes back to the old story of Steven Spielberg with Jaws. Mechanical Shark didn't work. It rarely worked. That's why they had so little of it until the very end. Those are the few scenes where it was actually functioning properly.
Yeah.
And so, but that's what built the suspense. You didn't get to see the shark. It built up that suspense. So it actually made the film more successful, more of a hit than it would have been if you had this fake shark, constantly in the scene.
No, for sure. It's also something that you cannot see is way more scary than something that you can see.
Yeah,
Once you
your
see it,
sure.
yeah. Once you see it, you own it. Michael, I don't know if my intervention was at all helpful. What I want to be conscious of time, and also Laura had a question.
Agreed.
But I hope let's sit with those two ideas that we have popped out in this very quick intervention.
Right.
And also, I think Luke wrote my email on the
Yes,
chat screen.
JohnValdivia.com.
.com. So feel free to send me an email anytime, and I'm available to. We can have a chat.
Yes.
No cost. We can brainstorm, and then see what else can come up. So I want to kind of glide into Laura's question initially, which was not too different, if I remember correctly, which was about, okay, yeah.
It wasn't any different than what Michael's asking. And so while you guys were conversing, I actually went and did a hunt and peck on the internet, because it's really important to know that the whole landscape has changed. So Michael, I can appreciate that what would have worked for you pre-COVID in 2019, that has all been wiped away. And so now you're working like everyone else in a black box. It's why I've been watching what Luke's been doing to see if any of this is working for him, because he's using multiple approaches for his exposure, and I want to see if that's translated into anything substantial. And Luke, you already mentioned it has, Now, I can't be certain if it's as a result of any of this, but I'm certain it is, because like I said, these projects don't jump into people's laps without exposure. Now, I know this for a fact because I used to work with a lot of high-end clients, and I'm pretty much I'm an invisible person, and I'm invisible because people don't, they want to remain anonymous, that they've sought out my expertise or my help. Well, that doesn't work now. I can't be anonymous anymore. So now I have to go out and redo everything, and pretty much it's podcasts, it's webinars, it's websites, it's this, it's that. I mean, this is stuff we've all done, but now you have to do it for your survival. You're not doing it for anything else except for your survival. But the problem is so is everyone else doing this. So how do we percolate ourselves to the top and keep ourselves percolated to the top? Because just as you're getting out there and your head is bobbing to the top, there's going to be 5,000, 100,000 more that are coming on top, pushing you back down.
Laura, can I ask you, what do you do? What's your industry?
So I do many things, but my industry is pretty much projects, digital transformations. So I work with, and before I even did that, I actually coach professionals on getting to the next level. How do you get to be the next 1%? In your industry? So if you're a medical professional, how do you get to be that 1%? If you're an engineer, how do you get to be that 1%? If you're an owner of a business, what more do you need to do to be the top 1%? And let me tell you, there are very, very few people who are able to do the legwork and keep up with the rigor. And through those, I then was doing professional development for their children, for friends. Oh my goodness sakes. I mean, I can't list all of them. And so that's all I'm saying. It's very, very different now.
Well, would it be fair to say that you are a career developer coach or mentor? No, because you said digital transformation as well. Do you mean like
these are people who want to be the top 1% in their field? They don't want you to know how they got there. So Luke didn't get to be a videographer and didn't get to have his business without other people helping him out. You don't do things in isolation. You're not in a silo. It's something people don't think about unless it's in the forefront. And so these people that are at the top 1%, they don't want you to know that they've got 10 other people behind them, like the president does, who's advising them, who's propping them up, who's, so back in the days, ESSO, we used to groom. So I call this grooming. That's basically what it is. You're grooming a person to be in a particular limelight at a particular rating level.
And then I guess your question is, could podcasting help with developing your positioning and your career in that specific industry? Well, because now that I know a bit of what you're doing in broad strokes, I want to know what the question is so I can better help you.
Right. And I'm not so certain that podcasts are the way to reveal, just like I would caution Michael to reveal his tips and tools on how he does it. Like, I mean, you have to be careful about how much you're willing to reveal. or let's put it this way, who's your target audience? So I'm sure Michael doesn't want to reveal all his tips and tricks to all the new grads coming out of college and university, right? I mean,
Correct.
you want to be able to hold on to this, because we've taken a long time and crafted our skills and techniques that a young person grabbing onto it has no idea what they're doing, and then they, pardon my language, they bastardize it. We've got a bastardization of skills, techniques,
I completely agree with you.
toolkits, practices.
I completely agree with you. And also, I mean, you sound to me like you're somebody who values craft and values matching the craft or the skill of somebody to the appropriate person, not to the general masses. So so because you're a very micro niche, you're very you don't want to go public about this. You don't want to go like, hey, this is what I do, and I'm gonna teach you all how to get up there to one. But you're not Tony Robbins. You're not Tony Robbins. But even Tony Robbins has private circles of 10 people that they pay 10 million just to talk with him. So, or a million, or whatever it is. So I think there is a marketing question. I don't think this is a podcasting question. And I am not saying that you couldn't have a podcast, because I'm sure that you have accumulated plenty of wisdom throughout your working career that could be of help to many people that may not be wanting to do your one-on-one services, but could grasp things that could be useful. That's a completely different conversation. You may want to share some of what you know to help worthy people, move up the echelons. But the type of service and the type of goal that you are describing, and the podcasting arena, initially, without having gone deeper into more detail, I'm not. It's not making the butterflies in my stomach go like, yeah, wow, Laura needs to have a podcast for sure. It sounds more like, wow, Laura needs to create very specific kind of
But a podcast is part of the marketing. Michael had a question, so I'd like to. I don't know if Michael, are you?
Well, I'm just going to intercede here and just ask a question, Laura. What is the meetup you started for? Because I did look at it.
I didn't. That wasn't the intention. The meetup had to do with how some of the leaders are looking at meetup, just like you did, Luke, as being a way to drive your business.
Okay.
And I'm going to it because I want to hear what they're having to say. If they're finding the same thing that you're finding, Luke, is that you're finding that meetup has saturated. There's a saturation level where everyone has to realize that once they reach it, they need to move on to something else. Once you've reached that, move on. And so podcasting is just one more element in getting exposure. So for me, exposure is key. That's all it is. It's a numbers game. Who can I get in front of? Period. Dot. So it's a numbers game. Podcasting is just one element in that algorithm, right? It's not the end all be all. But as you indicated, and as people know, podcasts can do a lot for exposure, but there's a lot of time and labor that needs to go into it till you build it up. And that's the critical part. Is if you're looking, I don't know, Michael, if you're looking for an immediate return on investment, but I am one of these people, I want to work smart, not hard. I'm not, I don't want to spend an entire year, and nor do I have an entire year to invest till I get my podcast, till I get the numbers, till I'm there. And that's all I'm saying is that, is there a, so in my business, we have many ways of approaching a project. We can do it slow and methodically, or what we can do is called rapid design, rapid development. So I'm about rapid design, rapid development, and return on investment. And the reason why is because I know that the life expectancy of any podcast is here today, gone tomorrow. The moment it's finished, it's gone. Something else replaces it. So so to spend that amount of time and money and investing in it when its end of life is within 24 hours. Yeah.
No, but also there's another element to podcasting. I like to see Michael. I know that you have a question. I'm not forgetting about you. Let's wrap with Laura now. I've been blogging for 10, 12 years. One thing I've learned about blogging is that if you blog to make money, you won't blog, you won't make money. There's certain strategies that are passion driven, and podcasting and blogging are two of them. That doesn't mean to say that you cannot make money with podcasting. That doesn't mean to say that there's not a monetary reason to make a podcast. But if the only engine behind you being in front of a microphone and going through the labor is so you get the clients, you will fail, and your podcast will be one of those that will close because you won't see quote unquote results. Okay. Because your results are measured in clients. There are many other ways, less labor intensive, to get in front of people, and that's where marketing campaigns come. That's where online congresses come. That's where all their strategies come that are more, like you said, rapid. I'm going to do this to get to this number of people. I'm going to invest this, and then I'm going to measure. I'm going to repeat and reflash. It's a completely different strategy. It's targeted. It's rapid. A podcast is the long game. The podcasts that will stay, independently of money or not, are done by people that love to press record and talk about their shit. Period. If you're pressing record and in the back of your mind you're going like, oh fuck, I don't have results yet. Oh my god, it's like I don't have any client. This is just not working. I have a client that talks like that on her podcast, and it's like, girl, I can hear your dread every time you do an intro. She does it because it's part of the business. I just have to do it because it's part of the business. I help her with all my heart, but I can hear it in her voice. Subscribe if you want to get all the updates, and see you in the next episode. It's like, God, I want to slice my wrists. It's like, it's like this is not a podcaster. This is somebody who's doing a podcast out of somebody told her that she should, and you can tell, and everybody can tell. So I would really recommend that, and you don't need me to tell you this, that you go for a strategy that you believe in, that actually jazz you up, and that you can do in shorter periods of time. Because if you're a sprinter, go for sprints. A podcast may take 2, 3, 4 years to launch, and that's why somebody that podcasts is like somebody that does yoga. You cannot do yoga for 2 months. Well, you can, but you're not gonna do yoga for 2 months and go like, I'm not getting results, I'm gonna go into Pilates now. It's like, okay, fine, whatever.
No, I hear what you're saying. Excuse me for interjecting here.
Your excuse, and please welcome. Stop my ranting.
No, but I agree. I had a similar experience to Laura in the sense that I don't want to give my services away, and I do need it to lead to something. I didn't realize it was such a long-term goal. So thank you for pointing that out, because I had thought about trying to teach, but what I found in the past, I used to teach assistants until one day I realized I was creating my own competition. I was showing them techniques that it took me years to learn. And then I would show them something that would save them time and effort. And then I found myself competing against them for jobs, and they're based on my skill set. I mean, that they had learned, I taught them everything they know, not everything I know, but everything they know. And so, but when they're looking at a price point, the producer or the director would say, well, wait, but this person's less money. Yeah, but well, let's see the results. You know what I mean? That's the key, is they're less money, but they have a lot less experience. So you're going to make up the money, and having them, it's going to take longer for them to find something that's doable.
Yeah. Those are your sales points for your clients. Like, yeah, you're going to spend more on me, but this is what you're going to get with a newbie. A newbie doesn't know this, and this. Right. Now, is a podcast the best channel to do a sales call? I don't think so. So, and then again, if you had a passion for talking about the industry, if you had a passion for interviewing other producers and directors, if you couldn't wait till next Friday because you're going to be talking to Martin Scorsese's location scout about, then I would say, man, do it out of passion. You will connect to a network that will surely open doors for you, and people will know you're passionate about it. But now, if you're gonna do it next Friday, I have to do this podcast because otherwise I will not get the oh my god, that's gonna transpire in everything you do. And I would totally encourage you to explore other avenues that you can believe in and that you can be just about, because I think everybody in this call knows that passion is contagious. And you want to talk, you want to work with passionate people, especially in creative industries like business or movie making. So you need to find.
And I do appreciate that. It's just difficult. It's such a time, a time element for me, that it takes up so much time to actually try to set up where I can interview a particular person. What I mean? Where it's just, then my job becomes setting up the prelude to the interview and not doing my work and having, so you know what I mean? So it may not be a viable avenue for me.
It may not be. It may not be. There's also there's also kind of a middle of the road approach, which is I'm gonna do it for 6 months and see how I feel.
Yeah. And I thought about doing, okay, maybe I'm at that point where I can start selling some of my secrets, have it where it's, I mean, where there's something that can lead them to a link where they can pay for a class. And a newbie director might, these are the finding locations 101. Maybe they don't have the budget to hire a location scout manager, and they've got to find it themselves, like many independents do. Yeah. Well, this is some of the problems you may come across. This is how you're going to get in touch with a property owner. This is how you're going to pull a permit for it.
That's why I asked you earlier if you had considered going into education, because you could pave the way for people that are serious about this. And but you have to price it right. You have to price it in such a way that only people that are serious about doing a good job at scouting are worthy of your time, and in that, and you also will have to find a way in which you are not creating your competitors, but you're building upon the industry and you're kind of pushing it to its edge.
And that's tough. To not create your own competition. I mean,
sure.
What I was just going to say with that is that further to what John is saying is that there's one thing about doing the coaching, and then there's another thing to teach people to be the coaches. And or bring that forward and whatnot. So maybe one of the things you can do is actually have a program where you're teaching all your skills and they're paying you to basically learn that, because one of my best definitions of a consultant is someone that shortens your learning curve. Right. So on that, but I also really want to support, and I know I'm repeating what I think we all agree with. Any of the YouTubers I watch or podcasts I listen to, it's because they love what they do. And enthusiasm does do that, but making money or converting it into something else is secondary. It's almost like that's what comes about happenstance from it, because then it's not work. Then they're enthusiastic to do it. They're lit up by an idea and they can't wait to share it, and they go. And it's the passion that I think is really what our point of entry on this, because it is a long haul to convert. And this idea that things go viral is just utter bullshit. I'm just gonna say it the way it is.
No, it is bullshit. And also, podcasting is very micro niche. It's not like YouTube. YouTube is owned by Google, and all the SEO goes there, and then they have the algorithm to what's next, and they get to know what you're watching. And podcasting is not like that. I mean, it's very difficult to get accurate numbers on podcasting, because you can have private podcasts that nobody knows about. You can have your own little podcast on your WordPress with a very private thing, and it can be listed, but nobody finds it. So it's very difficult to know what is the actual reach of podcasting. But I think if there's one commonality in everything that we're saying, is that it is a long-term game, and it's about a passion to share or communicate a sort of a sense of mission. And if a podcast needs to serve the short term, it rarely works. I've seen it work in the case of celebrities, let's say that a celebrity does 5 episodes of one podcast that is only going to have 5 episodes and is designed to promote their new album. Fine, that people already have an audience. They will swallow anything they produce. It's like, oh, I didn't know you had a podcast. It's only 5 episodes. They're going to talk about how they recorded the latest album, and then that's promotion. But that person already has 1 million followers. They don't need to build it up. So it's a long game, but it's also a game that is kind of cheap and fun to experiment with if you're so inclined and if you want to. I have a friend who's going to do 6 months to test it out and then decide.
So I'm just conscious of the time. We're at 71 minutes into the presentation, and I have a few questions I want to ask, but I'm just kind of reeling us in, just letting us know that we're about 19 minutes before we're officially done our 90-minute talk and whatnot. And so can I interject with a question, John? I have my
Please,
own
by all means,
okay.
Interject.
Okay, so there's a part of me that thinks I should know this, but I don't, so I'm going to ask. And that is, when it comes to recording, how much is it the microphone and how much is it the software? And we're talking an environment that is sound, no sound's going to come in. That's just not into it. I'm actually talking about from here being digitalized, from from the microphone right to digitalized. So how much is it? Is it all microphone? Or is all software created simple equally?
It's a recording environment, room, type of microphone adapted to the recording environment. Not every recording environment needs to be soundproof, perfect, whatever. There are microphones that can adapt to different recording environments. We all know from TV, and from studios. The microphone that the reporter uses in the street in the demonstration is not the same one that Lady Gaga uses in Abbey Road. We know that. Then there's the audio interface. In your case, you're using a Bluetooth audio interface. It compresses into Bluetooth and goes. There are other audio interfaces, like, let's see if I can show you mine. Something like this, for example. It has a something to say in the quality. Is what you're using between your computer and the microphone. Some people connect their microphone to the little jack on their laptops. Bad idea, really bad idea. The best microphone into that jack will lose lots of quality because that jack is there with another 10,000 microelectric components buzzing around with electrons, and all of that goes into the sound signal. So a USB
is better.
I do recommend USB to all my clients. Yeah. It's not the highest end possible, but for 99.9% of situations, when it comes. Good enough. Even Bluetooth is good enough in lots of situations when it comes to podcasting. And then finally, the software in theory should be neutral. The software will receive what the audio interface or what the USB is bringing you. The USB actually has a mini audio interface. Like this microphone is connected through USB, but this baby inside has an audio interface. It's just that it's hidden within the microphone. That's the beauty of it. So the software in theory is neutral. Now, the post-production, as you very well know through your video experience, then is when the software becomes important. What type of post-production do you need, and what's the best piece of software that can do the job, of course. So I work with different pieces of software depending on the material that I have. If I receive a very poor recording full of background noise, I may have to go into a cleaning up software. If I need to do a very complicated edit with lots of different tracks, I will use a different type of software. But the quality of capturing is 80% recording environment. Well, I don't know if 80, but let's say 60 to 70% is the recording environment. Then a decent microphone is going to be the other 20-25, and the rest is going to be a decent audio interface or USB microphone, more or less. I don't know if I got the percentages right, but the point is clear.
Idea on that. Yeah, absolutely. Now, the other thing too is that you have a Blue Yeti microphone that you're talking to right now.
Yeah.
Is there a time when less is more on microphones?
Yes and no. I don't think I would use the expression less is more. I think I would say different is better. it's about knowing when to wear a tuxedo. It's like, is a tuxedo better than a shirt? Well, depends. If you're gonna go to the gym, don't wear a tuxedo, but don't show up in a wedding with your shirt that you used to do your gardening. So something like the Blue Yeti is a phenomenal beast. I use it mainly because somebody gifted it to me. But it is not ideal for the average recording environment. Why? This is what is called a condenser microphone. It's a microphone that captures lots of detail, and it captures from far away. Hence, if my girlfriend is peeing in the toilet over there, we would hear it.
Wow.
Because she will flash and we would hear it. That's how good this microphone is. It captures lots of detail. So one classic mistake in podcasting or recording is like, wow, I bought this 500 euro microphone and I'm recording in a room that is full of noise. In that case, less is more. What is less? You can buy a very, very high quality dynamic microphone, not a condenser microphone, but a dynamic microphone. Those are the ones that you would see people using on reporting on TV. They speak like this, they have it here. Boom, there's a demonstration in the background. You can hear it, of course, but it's not leaking into the voice so much. So those are close range microphones, and those are ideal for broadcasting situations when people are speaking from their home studios. When they have the girlfriend or the wife or the husband in the other room, you have your little room. It's not perfectly adapted, but you have a close range dynamic microphone. It's not going to get you the level of detail of a condenser microphone, but it's going to give you radio broadcasting quality, and it's going to save you tons of trouble when it comes to recording. So, or something like you have, there's lots of very high quality. I know people that actually broadcast on radio with things like you have.
Like I'm wearing.
Here. Yeah. There's models that have lots of high quality broadcasting quality, and they're super comfortable. You just have it here, boom. And the microphone is designed to pick this. This one is designed to pick this. So I can talk to you from here, no problem. You can hear me. You can hear me well. You get the proximity effect. If I talk here, is way better. But this microphone is designed to kind of be there and be fine.
Fantastic.
Oh, how did Luke and John meet? We were on a strip club in New York, and
well, that's not true.
I was
actually,
dancing. No.
Okay, John, I know you don't want me to tell the story, but I'm going to. John actually saved my life in a night fight in Beirut. He had my back, and
you have to tell the story all the time, man. It's like, please don't embarrass me.
And then he gave me one of his kidneys. So a hell of a guy. A hell of a guy.
I'm gonna tell the story. I was facing some personal trouble, and Luke I appeared on my screen through random obscure Google searches, and I was quite impressed by what he had to say. So I sent him an email like, man, good content, love what you're doing. And then he wrote me back. It's like, hey, let's talk. And then we started talking and developed into a good friendship. So we have actually never met in person, but we've gone through a few seasons and through a few things. So
that's right. Yeah. Huge support and whatnot. And also that I think the thing that is one of the things I cherish the most is the authenticity that we have in our relationship, where we can talk about stuff and bring that up. So
yeah, we've cried a few times. I'm not embarrassed to say.
That's right.
Especially after saving your ass in Beirut.
How can I do anything else, right? Okay, so we are now just 11 minutes in. I'm not going to go into what I'm not going to talk about my other webinars because you guys know about them. I know Laura has seen pretty much all of them. And Michael, if you've been trying to come to other ones, hopefully we've solved that problem. So I'm not going to give my pitch at the end. I am going to encourage John to talk about his offer and what he is doing. And then we can answer any more questions and wrap it up.
Brilliant. Well, I think I have, I hope, it is my prayer and my hope that I have deployed a bit of what I can do, or my expertise, or let's say my areas of knowledge, and how I can provide value to people that are considering moving into podcasts. So my offer is very simple. If you're thinking about either specifically podcasting or maybe bouncing some ideas on marketing on the digital arena, just send me an email and I'll see how I can help. And if I can help, I'll let you know. And if I can't, I'll let you know. Mainly I'm a podcast producer. I have a different tiers of service. I don't think that pertains to this conversation, but the main thing I love doing and what I think I can really help people is to talk about the projects, to see it through, is to brainstorm, is to see what are the foundations, and to see if it makes sense for you. And if it makes sense to you, I can walk with you all the way. And if it doesn't make sense, then we'll have a cup of tea, and that'll be brilliant, you know. But mainly, I think I sit at the intersection between a sound engineer, a coach, a digital strategist, and a digital marketer. And I think all of that put together in one person is super useful when somebody's considering to start a project or to take it to the next level. So that's, you know, send me an email. I'll very gladly chat with you if and we can explore your project. No problem. So.
Yeah, and I really want to support that you're not just getting someone to do sound engineering for you or making sure that the sound is cleaned up. You're getting a lot more wrapped into that. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, John is not ego driven, and if he doesn't know something, he'll be the first to admit it. So it's not as if he's going to be muddling through and trying to figure it out and whatnot. And you know, so really appreciate that aspect of him.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Laura. Yeah, when I do my recordings, I really don't look great on camera, because then I would put this and I will have done the entire webinar like this, and you don't want to see me like that. So, so I kind of leave it at that. It's good enough. So.
And the other thing too is something that John just left out of his pitch that I'm going to throw in there, is that if you know of anyone that's interested in podcasts, please pass on his information, or you can pass on my information. I'd happy to connect, do an introduction and whatnot. But you know, you might know people that are looking to actually do this, and it's certainly worthwhile bringing his name forward.
Thank you very much for that, Luke, and thank you, Michael and Laura. I have to say that podcasting is a point of entry. I mean, the same holds true for sound-driven or voice-driven projects that are not necessarily podcasting. Maybe somebody needs to record an audio course or a video course. Luke brought this project forth recently that we do not know if it's going to turn into a podcast or not yet, but it is a home recording situation that needs to be carried out professionally. So I use podcasting as a point of entry, but if you need to do some recording, some voice work, if you need to put some sound to things, and it's going to be in the digital arena and you want to record it, just send me a line. I'll be happy to tell you what I know and assist you.
Fantastic. So we are almost up at our 90 minutes. We're going to take any last questions. Michael, Laura, have we, are you guys, do you have samples, voiceovers? Is that, I'm not sure I understand your question.
I'm not sure I understand your question, Laura.
So John, you had indicated that you will help people with sound. So whenever I do recordings or whatever, a lot of times I just wipe out the sound and I redo it. So do you have it where you're like any samples where sometimes it's helpful to see a before and after, right? And I'm certain that that's how you qualify. Like, how do you qualify or quantify your effectiveness or your efficacy or whatever, right? What's the proof, right? Because Luke will use his videos as his
social proof,
I suppose, social proof or whatever.
Good question, Laura. Thank you for bringing that one up. I'm very happy to send you, for example, let's say a sample of one of my clients recording on her microphone at home, the raw recording, and then how it sounds once I have produced it. I remove some echoes from the room where she's at. I give the voice punch and loudness. I bring the loudness to industry levels, which is something I know not many people do about podcasting. There's certain industry levels for podcasting and for video. So my client sends me the recording. It's a good enough recording, and then I produce it to a place where it can be broadcasted, where people can listen to it while they're commuting or they're in the gym, and it's not gonna sound like far away or anything like that. So if you send me a line to my email address, I'm very happy to do you like a video demonstration. Now, there's other aspects to that. Right now I'm working with somebody in Argentina who does not have a good recording environment, but I'm helping them maximize the equipment that they have so they can make the best recording possible with what they have. And things get creative, and there's a lot of value that can be, I mean, it's very easy to tell somebody, hey, spend 200 euro in this microphone. But when somebody needs to deliver a recording tomorrow and they have this microphone and this room to consult and to help to produce a good enough sound recording, so then I can do a very good post-production, it's also very, very helpful. So I'm very happy to give you examples like that. So if you want more on that, please do send me an email. I'll make sure I send you some files or even some video examples. I can screenshot my process and I can share it with you. Yeah.
And the beauty is the fact that we live in a world where you can do, you don't have to be geographically in the same location. Like I said,
Yeah.
really what's stopping you in some regards is language. And you use 3 languages. Do you consider Portuguese? Just, you don't consider Portuguese?
Portuguese and Italian and French. If I hear, I could understand because it's all Romance languages. They all come from Latin, But no, I lived in when we first met. I was living in Portugal. It was really hard to communicate with people, but I can understand. I can understand the main
right.
topics, but.
Right.
Spanish and English.
I do have a couple question and a comment just for Michael. And are you still with us, Michael?
I am.
Fantastic. Yeah. So my I guess the only thing that I would, and this would go for you also, Laura, and this is what I say, and it's not really that different from what John had said, is what is your key message that you want to basically get people out there? What do you want to hang your hat on? What do you want to be known for? And that kind of helps people, germinate the ideas and whatnot. So if you really, when people talk about your services, who is Michael Griffin? Oh, Michael Griffin is the guy that does that. That's a good way to actually, because then you reverse engineer it. Or what do you want people to say about your services is another way of doing that. So I just wanted to throw that out there. And would we know of some locations that you've actually participated on in a movie? I'm kind of curious.
Well, yeah, anywhere.
Drop names.
Yeah, I mean, I primarily do commercials. I'm known for my car commercials. So I've done a lot of car commercials. I've done a lot of the Super Bowl stuff as well, but I'm known for my car stuff because it's about where do you find that road? I mean, they pay you for your knowledge is what you're being paid for. And it's my photographic skills that allow me to sell the use of that location to a director. This is what you do there. This is how creative you can be. But some of the features I've done from Star Trek 6, I took them up to Alaska for the ice planet. I've done, I know John had mentioned something about, traveling across country or whatever. I did, there was a film called California with a K with Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
But all that, 95% of that was shot in California, but yet it was supposed to be East Coast. They travel across the country on this road trip. So it's knowing the locations where I can cheat. And because of I used to be a travel photographer before I got into scouting. So I've been quite a few places. So I know what a specific area looks like. So they can go, where can you find Africa, but we don't have the budget to travel there. So I know the places to go and how to shoot it where it looks like Africa.
Sir, I am just thinking that it's kind of sad that I need to go in 2 minutes because I do. But this conversation sounded like the start of a niche, because right there you're solving a very specific problem.
Okay. Yeah, great.
I mean, 2 actually. One of them, I mean, you do have a niche on car commercials,
right?
And you could really narrow the whole scouting down to solve the problem of how of the people that need to shoot car commercials.
Okay.
But then you have something that not many people have: how to make California look like any part of the world.
Right.
And that's something that not every scout is gonna know, and that's your gold, man. So I'm just gonna plant that seed and let you do some wine with that grape.
Yeah, how do I translate that into exposure? That's what I mean. That's the key for me, is how do I invent myself in a way I get the exposure for my abilities in that way to a market that's untapped.
Yeah. Well, that's something worth exploring. But okay. I think that because right now, what happened in your last paragraph, Michael, for me at least, is that I moved you from location scout to this guy can find me a road, and this guy can make my budget more efficient by making by exploiting closeness. California. I don't need to go to fucking Namibia to make it sound like Mars. Excuse my French. I'm on a roll, you know. And that solves a problem for a director that goes like, wow, you know, we're in COVID with this, with that. We're doing this epic adventure thing, and the budget is closed, and we cannot move because of planes and that. But I know a guy that, without moving from California, can make this happen.
Right. No, I agree. And we've got the weather to do it in.
Yeah. Right. I want 10% of all your profits. At all, not ego driven and money driven.
Yeah, I call bullshit on that.
No, but it's so cool to get to know you and to get to know your industry. I'm a complete film lover. I've written soundtracks for amateur films. It's kind of my dream, you know, to keep working in the soundtrack arena for documentaries and movies. So it's always good to talk to somebody in the movie industry, and I hope I have a chance to talk to you again.
Yeah, let's do that. And it's funny here. I'll leave you with this. There's a joke a director and I always had. What's all that dialogue between those amazing locations?
Why is Matt Damon talking there? Shut up.
That's right.
Why is he paid so much? Right. Pretty face.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, well, I'm going to actually now call this, I'm going to end the YouTube recording, and we're going to bring it to an end. So let me just, so thank you very much, Michael. Thank you very much, John, for basically talking on Widen Your Gaze. It's, I learned a lot. It's been very informative. And it really speaks to me about being intentional with what you're doing, and you can't say that enough. You can't state that enough, that you have to be very clear on so many aspects of that. You brought some excellent content today, so thank you very much. And thank you, Laura and Michael, for joining us. And please reach out to John. I know he serves and he would love to serve. Okay.
Brilliant.